Just go ahead, see what happens. We'll figure it out. Are you recording?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Robert McCaw. I'm CAIR's National Government Affairs Director, and this is the Daily Dose COVID Conversations with CAIR. We have an excellent program tonight. Tonight's topic is political engagement during a pandemic, and we have a great line of guests tonight. Our guest co-host is Sameena Usman. She is the Government Relations Coordinator with CAIR San Francisco Bay Area, part of our CAIR California chapter. Sameena, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Assalamu alaikum. I'm doing well as we can, given this whole COVID crisis.
Sure. So where are you hunkered down right now?
Well, I am in Santa Clara, California, and we have been, I think the Bay Area has been one of the first areas that were doing the whole shelter in place. It started March 19th for the state of California, but the Bay Area had 6 different counties that did take part in it. And so we've been, practicing shelter in place. Actually, my kids' school ended up, starting to do it remotely since March 11th. So we have been home for quite some time. So hanging in there.
So just as one government affairs guy to one government affairs person, who's also doing care work while raising kids in the house, doing the homeschooling thing. How are you balancing your government affairs life with your family life?
Well, I mean, my kids are very, very understanding, and they know that, when mama's on a call, yeah, you don't come in the middle, although you can see them walking back and forth. I still need to figure out how to create the background, one of those cool snazzy backgrounds on Zoom in order to block out everybody. Unfortunately, the one that's been really the most challenging aspect of staying at home and doing these Zoom calls is that my cats seem to want to take part in every single call. You might have seen Firepaw at the very beginning, and he will jump into the conversation and make himself known. So you'll see him pretty soon.
The internet loves cats.
Cats and babies, no babies here.
Yeah, I relabeled my 1-year-old and my 6-year-old my interns, so they're always working around me.
I'm sure they're very vocal and have a lot to say.
So we have a really great lineup of guests tonight, but before we get there, we just had a couple stats, some, a testament to the times we live in. Right now, there is a total of 1,970,879 confirmed COVID cases internationally, and there's actually 602,989 cases in the US. So, if there's a stay-at-home order and we're working from home and it's a luxury. And for all those people on the front line, essential workers, people manning hospitals, working at the grocery store, my thoughts and prayers out to you. So just those are the real facts and stats out there for what it looks like outside.
Yeah, I mean, as of Sunday, we had 22,000 cases across the state. Hundreds of people who have been killed by the COVID crisis. It really, has been affecting people close to home. I mean, I have a couple friends and also their family members who have been infected by the COVID crisis, and a number of my friends who are working in the medical industry, doctors, people who are working in the labs, and so. Our prayers are going out to them. We're very concerned about their health. We do know that, of course, they're trying their best to make sure that they have their safety protocols in place. Of course, the lack of, the equipment, the face masks is very concerning. And that's why, I'm very happy that our Muslim community has stepped up in the creation of the face masks. And so, I was just speaking with with a member who had been actively a part of the creation of that. And they have hundreds of volunteers who have been putting together these face masks and have delivered them to various hospitals around the area.
You know, there's a special reward for those who are on the front lines, for those who assist them, and also for those who just stay home and don't spread.
I just wish I knew how to sew. That would be really nice.
You know, my stepmother, she's a Cuban American in Florida. She just sent us 10 homemade hand sewn face masks that we've been wearing, everyone. It's been really cool wearing them. I was wearing a modified version of my wife's hijab until recently.
Well,
So,
when there was the fire crisis that happened across or at least Northern California, our office provided us with the N95 mask. So I have one for myself, but I kind of feel bad for my kids. So they're kind of sore out of luck. No, but they've been wearing like my scarves and been covering themselves that way.
it's time to be a Muslim. All right, so our first guest, and you know him very well, is Basim Elkarra, and he is the executive director of CAIR-Sacramento. And for tonight's program, again, political engagement during a pandemic, he's going to provide us a local perspective on what it means to politically organize one's community, and even as a candidate, which I know he's been once or twice, and maybe again in the future. So, Basim, are you there?
I'm here.
Excellent. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you. What are you doing? And what is the political scene like in California? Is it all just mobilization from the internet? Are we knocking on doors via email? What's happening?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm sorry if you can hear the kids in the background yelling my name, but I told them I'm on a video chat. So I mean, right now, census is the big priority right now, and so you know, we had our primary moved from June to March, and this was something that Governor Brown did back in 2016, and this was the first primary that it moved to Super Tuesday, and so that had its own challenges for running for office earlier in the year. Sunset is early, not enough time to knock on doors and all that. But glad that's over, and then now it's all about census, just making sure we have a complete count here in California and around the country, of course. And with COVID-19, we just had to think out of the box. How do we engage the hard to count populations in our community? And so it's all about data. That's what it comes down to, data. How are we going to get folks' numbers, and how do we phone bank them to make sure that they fill out, you know, the census, creating a virtual questionnaire assistance center where folks that need help in different languages, that we work with our partners that speak Arabic, Farsi, Dari, Pashto, you name it, and just make sure we have a hotline where folks can call in and select the language and get a live person to help them to help them fill out the census. There's so much at stake for our communities, and especially here in the Valley where I'm at the capital of California, we have a lot of refugees. One of the fastest growing refugee populations probably in the country, where you have a large segment of Iraqis, Afghans, Syrians, and so to make sure that they're counted, because you know each person is pretty much you know, comes out to $1,000 a year per person. So if you got a family of 5, right, that's $50,000 in 10 years, and to your local economy, to you know, local, that helps you locally, that provides more services. So to ensure that the community knows that every person counts, your vote counts, and also you count in the census. And I'm sure we're going to discuss, knowing we got Sameena here, talk about elections and voting and the importance of that, and how everyone can make a difference.
Well, Sameena, do you see the census being a great boot camp for the Muslim community for the upcoming election?
I mean, well, first of all, I mean, just going back to just the issue with the census, I know a lot of people who I spoke with, and we were trying to do outreach about it, they didn't even know about it. And they had even been living here when the last census, you know, had taken place. And so a lot of people were wary about it and wondering, you know, is this a way for the government to like get my information? You know, what's the catch? And honestly, the way that we pitched it is we've just said, look, you know, it takes you 10 minutes to fill out roughly 10 questions that's going to impact you for the next 10 years of your life, and we could lose up to $10,000 per 10 years. So, you know, it's important and it's critical for our community members to take part in it and to be counted. And I think that, you know, people, in terms of getting people involved with the elections, yeah, I mean, the fact that the primaries happened around the same time as the census, we've been able to really push the both items and both issues, and informing people that, look, this is our responsibility. This is our, we have to get engaged, we have to be involved, and we have to have our voices heard, whether it be at the ballot box or whether it be through the census. And so, this is something really critical. So actually, Basim, I wanted to ask you, what do you tell community members who are concerned and who are worried about how this information might be potentially misused?
We know there's a lot of safeguards, and we know the Trump administration tried to add the citizenship question, and luckily the courts, defeated that. And so a lot of organizations until that moment, were still on the fence of whether we were going to support, because we know historically that during World War II, it was used against Japanese Americans. But now there's more safeguards, and we know there's a 70-year rule where information cannot be made public until 70 years later, which we won't be around by then, unless you're going to live into about maybe 110, 120. And I know there's a few people in the world that are that old, but so there's no concern. There is no concern, and we got to look at the safeguards that our elected officials have pledged to fight to ensure that no one can take that information and use it for anything. So, and by the way, if folks are concerned, there's many ways that the government can get lists of Muslims. Okay, I mean, so even easier ways in the census. So we shouldn't be concerned about that. We should be concerned about how this money affects the most vulnerable in our communities. And that's why states like California have invested $180 million to ensure a complete count. And so there's so much at stake, billions of dollars at stake for the vulnerable in our community. So for me, I look at it as a religious obligation to make sure that we're getting funding to those that really need it. We're talking about daycare programs, mental health programs, education, you name it. I mean, so it informs decisions of how this money gets allocated, but based upon the census. And also, some states could lose congressional seats if we don't get a complete count. And so that's why the Trump administration has worked hard to put, to scare people out there, especially the undocumented and folks that are not citizens, to not fill it out, because they do want that to, it'll affect our House of Representatives and the allocations there.
Well said.
Yep, and that's exactly why that we want to make sure that people are filling out the census, regardless of their documentation status, regardless of whether they're housed or unhoused. And I know that there has been the push in order to make sure to reach out to those who are unhoused and get them counted as well.
So everyone, this is my the census letter I got in the mail. I've already done the census. It took me less than 10 minutes. Go to www.census.gov. Click all the links you need to. Just takes a couple minutes. Fill out the census. Speaking of congressional offices and making sure, number one, they exist and that there's even more in your district and area, we're going to bring on our next guest, Shaun Kennedy. He's the campaigns director for Jetpac. Shaun, are you there? Uno, dos, tres.
Yes.
There we go.
Hello, Robert. How are you?
Hey.
Hi, Sameena.
Hey, all. How are you doing?
Yeah, everyone who's watching. I'm good, thank you.
Tell the world about Jetpac. What are you guys doing from the New England and the national perspective? You guys are just engaging Muslim communities, getting behind Muslim candidates. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so Jetpac is a nationwide organization based in Massachusetts that trains American Muslims to run for office. We've been in operations for 5 years now. We've worked with over 40 people, and we're actually looking to scale up at the moment as we digitize our content and try to make it easier for people to get the training and the resources that we provide.
Excellent. I've been hearing your organization's name for the past several years as I've tried getting out the Muslim vote, and most people know it, but CAIR works with Jetpac and we're tracking Muslim candidates. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this project started early 2016, late 2015, when we kind of realized that there wasn't a list of Muslim candidates running for office aside from what the alt-right tends to throw around. And we wanted to make sure that everyone was counted and that we were able to document the base of power being built politically in the Muslim community so that we could show that we really do have a big electoral influence.
Great.
So compared to, let's just say 10 years ago, have you seen a difference in the numbers of Muslims who are running for office?
Historical data is kind of scarce and a little vague at best, but prior to 2001, there's an article that the AP published saying there were like 600 people running in 1 year, and now that number's down considerably, but starting to rise. In the last 4 years, it's definitely risen quite considerably.
So we already heard a little bit about this from Basim earlier, and feel free to jump in, Basim, but could you provide us some good examples from the Muslim community about how people are digitally organizing at this moment during this pandemic?
Yeah, it looks a lot like this, to be honest, when you're looking at your outreach, when you can't knock doors. Ihsan Lecky is running for Congress out of Massachusetts. She does a COVID conversation similar to this and has been doing it for 4 weeks, twice a week, where she brings on experts to talk to the community, talk about what's going on, talk about every aspect that is affecting her community at the moment in her district and everyone adjacent to it. I think that that's a really important thing to be doing. As long as we can't go and meet with people face to face at their door, we have to meet them on these terms, and to be able to provide expertise and still fit within this pandemic narrative and stay relevant, it's a good way of doing it.
So then how should organizers view their organizing role right now?
I would say that everyone's kind of coming to me, or everyone who is coming to me is saying, what do I do if I can't canvas? Like, nothing compares to canvassing, and that's true. So I would say just like accept the fact that you can't canvas and instead use digital for what it's best for. And Basim talked about this earlier. You need to be gathering data. If you are hosting virtual events, you can make people or ask people to RSVP by providing an email that goes into your list and potentially, you know, gets turned into a donation, a voter, a supporter later on in the campaign. You can be polling people, send out simple surveys, increase your reach, increase your name recognition, use direct mail. There's a lot to do without knocking on doors that can still keep you a part of the conversation and still ultimately then help you prepare for when we are given the all clear and can get back out in the field.
So what are some ways that supporters of candidates can take part and help their candidate of choice get elected?
I think that signing up as a volunteer now is definitely a good idea. You know, campaigns still need volunteers for a lot of things, especially if you have skills that are tech related. And just because there are a lot of campaigns who weren't prepared for this, who need that kind of help quickly. I think that if you can afford it, you know, if you're not part of the 6-7 million people who have recently been laid off because of the pandemic, please continue to donate. Organizations, candidates alike, really will shape the future of this. I think that a lot of our response at the moment is because we didn't have the right leaders in place and our policy wasn't where it should be. So think about the people and the organizations who are building that leadership for the future and give to them, as well as the relief organizations and the food banks that obviously also need your support at this time.
You mentioned how the 6 to 7 million people have been laid off. Have you noticed like a narrative change and the bringing up of different issues, you know, such as like worker rights or healthcare or voter access? Have you noticed that type of change in that narrative?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's becoming increasingly obvious to a larger amount of people that the idea that we have an insurance system that's so inherently tied to employment is simply untenable at the moment. If any representative continues to hold that view beyond this pandemic, then I think that you can quite honestly call them irresponsible. We need to be looking at other solutions. Personally, I think the Medicare for All is that solution, but the idea that we could be looking at unemployment rates as high as 20% in the near future, and that leading to people without healthcare during a pandemic, I mean, it's just negligent for us to think that that system is still a good idea. around workers' rights, I mean, that ties in, but obviously we need to be making sure that the safety net is broader across a number of areas there. We should be looking at more direct stimulus payment options. At the moment, universal basic income has come up as something that would help people in this time. And I mean, voter access is a huge one. Massachusetts is lucky, our primary isn't until September. So maybe we'll be able to get to the polls at that point. I think people will still be hesitant then. Nationally, obviously, we've still seen some blunders with Wisconsin and with Michigan. And I read a Harvard article today saying that some social distancing measures may still have to be in place in 2022. So right now is the time to leverage this unfortunate reality to make sure that we're pushing for the policies that really progressives have been calling for a while, to make sure that if this draws out, if this happens again, when this happens again, we're not left with this same response that's been lacking.
So yesterday, CAIR joined 150 other groups in a letter to Congress asking for $4 billion in funding. So far, only $400 million in funding has been provided for safe and fair elections, with a real strong focus on vote by mail, whether that's early voting, whether that's extending the time period to vote. Where, as an election organizer during this time, what should we be telling Congress about vote by mail? What should we be telling our state governors, and what are you doing in the community?
I think that vote by mail definitely makes sense. It might also provide a little bit of a stimulus to the post service at the moment, right? With the postage that has to be paid there. Ultimately, though, I mean, Jetpac doesn't do a lot of direct issue advocacy. We train people how to do it. And this is all a part of our general platform that we push for. We should be telling Congress that there's no excuse at the moment. To ask people to go to the polls is to really encourage voter suppression, or encourage those who are disabled, immunosuppressed, elderly, at risk, to put their lives at risk for democracy, for something that's so basic. It should be such a core tenet of their right to be here in this country. And really, if you're not delivering that message boldly and unapologetically, then I hate to say it, but you're missing out on an opportunity.
Definitely. I think that 2020 presents a major opportunity for not only just Muslim Americans, but all Americans to take a reassessment of how our government works, and are our elected officials working for us?
Yes.
So
yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
I've been seeing the push for people they're pushing for eviction moratoriums, and coming out in full force. And even if they can't come to city council meetings in order to voice their opinion, we have seen people joining in or making public comment online using the online portals, or making, some city councils are even including some video statements that people can make. But I don't know, are you seeing the issue across the country where like city councils do not have such tech fixes in order to allow for community members to take part in the process?
Yes. I mean, I think that this is forcing a lot of places to modernize. It's making it happen pretty quickly, which is unfortunate. I've seen Zoom meetings taking part at the local level here for city council. I know that a lot of legislators at the city and state level are kind of taking if nothing is immediately urgent, we're not coming in and we're kind of not meeting, and they're just working from home like the rest of us. But I think that is happening, unfortunately. Some councils, some cities are not as lucky as others to have that capability already set up, or have the ability to put it in place.
So if I had one message from Jetpac to everyone watching the program right now, getting ready for the election, looking as a community organizer, what's the one takeaway that you want to give everyone?
I would say that you're probably on social media a lot more. You're probably browsing a lot more. Be a little bit more intentional with that. Get involved with people online by following their things, sharing their stuff, liking, donating if you can, encouraging your friends, signing up for stuff. Commit yourself to volunteer once this is all over, so that when we are given the all clear, those people that you support have a real army to hit the ground running with.
And then just narrowing in, what's your message to Muslim candidates?
To Muslim candidates, I would say you need to really open up, get on live, make sure that your face, your voice, your message is out there as much as possible. Don't hesitate, be unapologetic, and be a little bit shameless with the digital outreach that you're doing.
There's nothing shameless in selling yourself during an election.
Well,
All
I know
right,
who's
absolutely.
shameless and unapologetic is this little guy who joined the meeting. So you
What's the cat's name again?
Firepaw, and it's his birthday tomorrow.
I'm turning that into a meme. All right. Well, Shaun, can you throw out your website one more and any other followings that you want everyone to hear from y'all?
So we're here on Facebook at JETPAC_INC. Our website is jet-pac.com, and we're on Twitter at JETPAC_INC. Oh,
right.
I messed up the Facebook one. There's no underscore. JETPAC-INC.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much. You've been an excellent guest.
Thanks for having me.
I'm sending you an email tomorrow. We work together all the time. We're still putting together that list of Muslim candidates in 2020. So I'm excited to announce that after the election. I hope that's a big list.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Shaun.
Well, Sameena, that was a pretty good program.
Yes, it was. Exciting, lots of exciting issues that are coming up in 2020. I know that the COVID situation has really taken over the newsways, but we really need to make sure that people are involved and are aware of the issues, because this is all going to be affecting us, moving forward.
Definitely. I want people to know out there that civic engagement is still alive, in addition to the census, in addition for communities getting ready for the election. I've called several congressional offices this week, and I know you have too, and they're picking up the phones and they're redirecting a staff hunkered down in their houses, but everyone's still working on behalf of their constituents, or at least they should be.
Oh yeah, I've actually even been able to have meetings with congressional members themselves. I think I've had more meetings with us all being sheltered in place than when it's the normal time of year, because even elected officials, staffers, everybody is at home, and they're willing to meet with their constituents. And I think that what's great is that constituents are able to even take part in these meetings as well. So I might have a meeting with a Congress member, and constituents who live about an hour away, they can all join in on the call, and it completely works. I mean, we all still need to be active and involved in what's happening, and we still need to be aware, because I mean, once the shelter in place gets lifted, the elected officials are going to be hitting the ground running to try to get their bills passed, and so we want to make sure our voices are heard.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you for all the work you're doing out there on the West Coast. I'm going to try to match you on the East. Hopefully we'll meet in the middle and mobilize the American Muslim community. Do you have one big message you want to put on a billboard for anyone? Everyone? The internet. What do you got?
I don't know. Just be counted, be heard.
Absolutely. Well, your office in particular does some of the most action alerts CAIR does chapter level. So check out CAIR's action alert website. Go to our CAIR.com. Look at the state action alerts. There's a few San Francisco Bay Area action alerts that need to be clicked on if you live in California.
There was a Muslim mayor, his name is Omar Ahmed. He was out of San Carlos. Unfortunately, he had passed away a few years ago, but he had done an amazing TED Talk. Please look it up, Omar Ahmed and TED Talk. And his TED Talk was basically that the power of the pen and how impactful it is, and how as a mayor, oftentimes he might not know which way to vote. And he looked at like the number of letters that came his way and counted, okay, well, we got 500 here and only 5 here, okay, I'm going to go ahead and vote this way. And so a lot of elected officials do operate that way. So make sure to be heard and make sure to have your position weighed in, because if they don't hear from you, they are going to be hearing from somebody else. So we want to make sure our voices are heard, and this is the time to get involved.
That's the golden rule of politics. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We hope to have you again.
Thank you.
And just for everyone watching, tomorrow night we have another excellent program lined up. The title of that is "Good Is There Good Other Than Good? Charity During a Contagion." And I would remind everyone, go to our newly launched news website, CAIR-Newsroom.com. Tonight's program will be there with a whole host of other articles related to COVID-19 and the Muslim community's response. Not only will you get updated news, you'll get spirituality tips, op-eds, other publications, all from a Muslim perspective. So thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum and good night.
Thank you. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.